Hello everyone, it's INVIS here. Today I would like to share some information about the blind mechanic. Here's some interesting things to know about the blind if you are thinking the blind is only doing 30% damage buff, then it's not that. There's a lot of things that you can do with the blind, and also you may be surprised on some of the testing results I'm going to share. First of all, let's take a look at the blind damage description. It says for 3 seconds after you use the blinding flash, and it's the fate in the light I'm talking about. You do you deal 30% additional weapon damage as holy. That is the description. It's not 30% flat DPS buff, and I will show you exactly what blinding flash fate in the light is. The weapon I'll be using for this test is a very crappy weapon, 8 to 10 average damage. I chose this weapon as ideally the damage range should be as close as possible. So if I can get like 9 to 10 or even the same number, that would be great, meaning that the weapon range is not going to fly around all the time. In order for me to do this test, I will turn on the damage number. I will also turn on the critical damage number. I have no gear on, but I do have, I'm going to dismiss my follower. I do have 5% base critical chance and 50% critical hit damage. So whenever I hit, you will see the white numbers, and that is the damage range. So it's ranging from 57, 62, 57, 61, and now that is a crit at 95. So the yellow numbers are the crit. So the number is ranging about 59 to 70, I would say. So this is with this weapon. Now, if I cast my blind, it's going to increase my DPS. It's going to increase my damage by a certain amount. So if I press my blind now, for 3 seconds, you're going to see the numbers jump up, and that's easy. Everyone knows that. So blind, and then I'm doing more. So I'm doing 90, and then after 3 seconds, it's going to fall down into 60 range. I'm going to cast my mantra so I can get more spirits. The Wheel of Light also works the same. So if I cast my Wheel of Light at the moment, it's doing around 150 white numbers. Some of them may crit. If they crit, it may be over 200. That is my Wheel of Light without the blind. So my Wheel of Light damage with this weapon is around 150. If I cast my blind, of course, you get the 30% damage as holy, and therefore the Wheel of Light damage is going to be more. So for 3 seconds, you're going to see it go over 200, and then after 3 seconds, it's going to jump down into the 150 range. So that's nothing new. That's very simple. The first thing I want to show is what happens when you equip different kind of offhand. This is my main hand. My first offhand weapon, which I'll be using to test, is this weapon. It has 1189.8. I'm going to equip that. If I use my fist attack now, it's going to jump from 62, which is my main hand, all the way to like 8k, 5k, 5k, 8k, and that is this weapon here. The weapon range is a lot, so of course the numbers are jumping all over the place. But you can see my first hit weak and then powerful hit. I will show you what happened when you cast your Wheel of Light now. For those people who thinks that, oh, you're using a very high DPS offhand, then your Wheel of Light is going to be very powerful. This is what happened. So Wheel of Light without this weapon is around 150. Here is me casting the Wheel of Light. It's exactly the same. So it does not matter what offhand you're using, because the Wheel of Light are based on your main hand DPS. Therefore, doesn't matter what offhand you're using, I'm always going to be casting my Wheel of Light at the 150 DPS range. So that's my main hand. The second things I want to show you is what happened to blind, and I can show this very well with a very fast hitting weapon like this, 1.73 hitting offhand. Now if I cast my blind before without this weapon, you can see my rate of light goes up to 200. And let me just show you one more times. Blind, and then it goes to 200, over 200 for 3 seconds. And then after 3 seconds, it jumped down to 150. So that is 3 seconds blind damage. And this is what happens when you use a faster hitting weapon. Well, first of all, there's two things in here. When do you cast the blind? The blind can be cast either on your main hand or offhand. The way to look at it is by looking at your character sheet details. So my spear is at 1.2, my dagger is at 1.73, meaning that this attack speed 1.38, that is my spear, and 1.98, that is my dagger. If I happen to cast my blind depending on the hand, it will have different result. First of all, let me try this on a slower main hand cast. So I'm going to cast my blind here with my slower weapons, and you can see the result. You will get the 15% dual attack speed bonus. So this attack speed 1.38 is faster than just 1.2, and that's because dual wielding. So here I'm going to pop my blind now, and I'm going to cast my Wheel of Light. Before, with the blind and the Wheel of Light, I was doing around 200-ish. And here is what happened. Blind, it's slightly higher at 223, 233. And that is because of the 15% blind DPS buff. Attack speed buff, sorry. But after 3 seconds, it's going to fall down into the 150, 170 range. It will still be a bit higher. Oh, no, sorry, it won't be higher. You will only get the attack speed bonus during that 3 seconds, and that is because of the blind. Blind, it depends on your attack speed, and that is the first information I want to give out. The blind is not a flat 30%. It depends on the attack speed of your weapon or the hand that you're casting. You will get more blind effect if you're casting your blinding fresh faith in the light on a faster hitting hand. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, instead of casting my Wheel of Light on a slower hitting weapon and get just over 200-ish and then fall down to below 200, now I'm going to change. I'm going to cast it on my offhand. The offhand is a higher attack speed offhand than my main hand. So my main hand is at 1.2. My offhand is at 1.73. I'm going to make sure my blind is now cast on my offhand at 1.98. So this is what happened. Before it's around 230 weapon DPS output, and now this is what happened. Blind 1k for 3 seconds, and then it jumped back to 150 range. So that is the interesting part. The blind depends on your active hand when you are casting your blinding fresh. So if you happen to cast it on your faster hitting weapon, the blind effect will then kick in more than casting on your slower hand. So one more time, gonna cast on my faster offhand now with the blind, and you see 1k. The result is very noticeable. The next thing I want to show is also very interesting. It's not just based on your attack speed. So I'm going to use a different weapon. I'm going to use this weapon first, and then I'm going to use this weapon next. Both of them are 1.5 attack speed. Both of them has got no dex, no critical damage, so they will be doing similar things, but the difference is the weapon range. The weapon range is a lot different. This one's only 1.105 and this one's 1007. The result will be the same if I cast it on my main hand. So if I cast my Wheel of Light here on my main hand, it's going to be doing exactly the same. So I'm going to just show you that. Blind, 3 seconds over 200, and then it's going to fall down to 100. This is what happened if you cast it with this offhand and you cast your blind on your main hand. And this is what happened if you use the 1k DPS weapon as your offhand, but then also still cast your blind on your main hand. You're going to get exactly the same result. So blind over 200 and then fall down. This is when you cast your blind on your main hand, but the result is going to be different when you're casting your blind on your offhand. And we already know that between this and that, between the 1.2 and 1.73 offhand, if you have a faster offhand, you will get more blind damage. That we already know. But now I'm going to show you guys what happens if you have a different weapon DPS offhand. This is the first one. I'll make sure it's going to be cast on my offhand now at 1.72, and I'm going to cast my blind and then do the damage. 700, and then it's going to fall down into the 150 range. So for 3 seconds, my blind effect is going to be doing more damage. So it's casting at 700 DPS output for each of my Wheel of Flight. One more time, just to show you the weapon range, the DPS range. Make sure it's on my offhand, 1.72. Blind, 700-ish, 800-ish, and then 3 seconds afterward, go down to below 200. Now, I'm going to cast it on this weapon. And this is the most interesting part. Before, we already know that doesn't matter how high your weapon DPS is on your offhand. If you cast it on your main hand, the blind, the result is going to be 200. But if you cast it on your offhand, the blind, this weapon is giving me around 700. And now, with a 1.72, with a much higher weapon DPS weapon, I'm now going to press my blind, and I'm doing 5k. So this is quite interesting, and maybe a lot of people don't know about this. The blind damage depends on 2 factors. It depends on the attack speed of your active hand when you cast your blind. So if you're casting your blind on a faster hitting hand, then you will get more damage buff. Second of all, it also depends on your weapon DPS. So if you're casting your blind on a higher weapon DPS hand, you will also get more DPS buff than a slow and a much lower DPS weapon. And this will then get fall into the Nirvana spec. The Nirvana spec is the spec that you are getting infinite spirits. And I've done many calculations about how the Nirvana works and also the formula to calculate effective DPS. But one thing that you should note is, depending on your pressing combination, when you're getting into the fight, if you are casting your Wheel of Flight after if you're casting your blind after you dash, or if you are using your fist attack, then you have a 50-50 chance to get either the blind on your main hand or offhand, because your fist attack, you can see this number here, 1.3 and 1.72. That's jumping between my main hand and offhand. So you have a 50-50 chance when you are doing your blind before you're doing your fist attack. And also, if you happens to like dash, 1.38 dash, 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 dash also changes your hand. So if you are doing either of them, then you have a 50-50 chance to change it into your offhand. And if you happen to cast your blind on the offhand, usually if you gear up correctly for Nirvana, then you're going to lose the blind damage. Simply because you usually put a faster hitting weapon on your main hand. So your main hand should usually be faster due to how Nirvana works. The main hand depends on how many Wheel of Flight you can cast. Second of all, your main hand weapon is usually higher weapon DPS compared to your offhand as well. So most likely you'll want to cast your blind on your main hand. So how can you then be sure when are you going to cast your blind, and how are you going to force it into your main hand? Well, if you're using fist attack, then 50-50 chance, no way. If you're using dashing strike, no way. It changes your main hand and offhand. But if you are casting Wheel of Light, then it forces it into your main hand. So let me show you this. Here you can see fist attack 1, and then it's changing its number 1.38, 1.72. It's changing all the time, just the same way as dashing strike. Dashing strike, you're changing. But say if I'm using my offhand now, which is the 1.72, if I cast my Weight of Light 1, okay, it's not on my main hand 1.38. If I cast it again, it stays at my main hand. So the Weight of Light does not change hand. Therefore, you can use the Weight of Light to force your attack into main hand, and at that point, if you cast your blind, you have 100% chance that your blind is going to be cast on your main hand, and this is how you can maximize your effective DPS or your efficiency when you are doing the Nirvana spec. When you are dashing around, you can dash, you can put the holy damage to the monster like far away, just the usual things that you need to do for Nirvana. But when you dash into a target, instead of just hit a few more times, or instead of just pressing your blind right away, you want to dash, Weight of Light, and then use your blind after you cast one Weight of Light. This way, the first Weight of Light is going to force your hand into your main hand, and the blind is going to be cast on your main hand to have more blind damage. Afterwards, all of your Weight of Light is going to benefit from the higher DPS buff you get from the blind. You can dash away afterwards. The second you press your blind, you're now free to go. So once you cast your more powerful blind, you can either dash away, doesn't matter, because all of your Weight of Light is still going to be cast on your main hand. But if you do anything before you press your blind, you will have a 50-50 chance that your blind is going to be based on your offhand. So I hope that helps to understand the blind mechanic, and I hope you find this interesting. If this is something you know already, then very well done. If there's something new to you, at least I hope you find this interesting, and maybe you can think about the way you press the skills to get maximum blind damage. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, you can go to my channel and you can ask me any question. See you guys next time.